Karoline Leavitt hits Elon Musk with one-line "Earth won't miss you." The line outside the Rayburn House office building curled like a sleeping python, slow and thick. Reporters clutched iced coffees and power banks. Protesters waved cardboard signs that read, "Mars can wait," and "No jobs, no launch." CNN was already live broadcasting from a safe angle that showed the rising sun glinting off the Capitol dome. Inside, the tension was less theatrical, it was bureaucratic, clinical. At 8:44 a.m., Karoline Leavitt stepped out of a black SUV. No entourage, no campaign hat. Just a gray folder tucked under her arm and a pair of almond-colored heels clicking against the concrete. She paused at the metal detector, offered a tight nod to security, and walked in. The hearing was scheduled to begin at 9:00 a.m. sharp. The title was unassuming: Federal Subsidy Oversight and Economic Output Review. But everyone knew what this really was: a showdown. At the center of the hearing was Elon Musk, CEO, tech mogul, space baron, a man who once joked about nuking Mars to terraform it. Today he would be asked why $12 billion in taxpayer subsidies had created fewer than 15,000 verified jobs. The hearing room looked like a courtroom wearing a suit: polished oak, tiered seating, microphones that swallowed hesitation and amplified doubt. Aides whispered as Leavitt took her seat near the far end of the semicircle. Senator Booker, moderating the session, gave a polite glance as he checked his notes. "Let's keep it orderly today," he said, though no one seemed unruly. Across the room, Elon Musk sat with a neutral expression. He wore a muted navy suit, no tie, and a watch that cost more than some people's yearly rent. His assistant Kai sat beside him, flipping through a digital brief on a tablet. The chatter died down at 8:59. A clerk hit a button. Red lights lit up on every microphone. "Good morning," Senator Booker began. "Today we examine the return on federal investments made in emerging technology sectors, particularly those related to aerospace and infrastructure." Standard language, almost sleepy. But the room was wide awake. Booker continued, "Mr. Musk, thank you for appearing today. We know you have a full calendar." A few reporters chuckled. Musk nodded once. "Happy to clarify our progress." Leavitt hadn't spoken yet. She opened her gray folder, slowly revealing printed spreadsheets, maps, and 2 photographs. She marked a tab with her finger. Booker laid down the ground rules. 5 minutes per representative. No interruptions. Questions only, not monologues. The first 3 speakers stuck to the basics: investments in clean energy, hiring metrics, contractor oversight. Musk responded smoothly. The jobs created in Nevada, the batteries exported from Texas, the infrastructure upgraded in New York. Then came Leavitt's turn. She didn't look at Musk. She looked straight ahead. "Mr. Musk," she began, "how many federally subsidized jobs from your 2022-2024 grant cycle were confirmed by the Department of Labor?" He glanced at Kai. "Approximately 14,800, she nodded. "And how many of those jobs were still active?" 12 months later, Musk hesitated. "Roughly 2/3, I believe." She didn't blink. "The number is 9,360. That's 36% retention. Can you explain that discrepancy?" He leaned forward slightly. "The nature of technological innovation," she cut in gently, "is not an answer. It's a context. I'm asking about output." Booker raised an eyebrow but didn't intervene. Musk took a breath. "We build frontier technologies. There are natural fluctuations." Leavitt turned a page in her folder. "Your 2023 filing with the Commerce Department projected 42,000 sustainable jobs by Q1 2025. You're currently at 14,800. That's 35% of target. At $12 billion in federal funding, that equates to $810,000 per verified job." The room was still. No one moved. No one whispered. Musk's jaw flexed. "Those numbers don't account for the indirect job market." She raised a hand, calm and precise. "We'll get to that. Let's talk direct impact first." She clicked a pen and pulled out the first photo. It showed a vast warehouse in Illinois. Empty. This was supposed to be a battery cell production facility. It received $280 million in federal credits. It currently employs 17 security guards and 1 janitor. The job listing website says, operational by end of 2024. We're halfway through the year. Musk stared at the image. Kai typed something quickly on his tablet. Leavitt placed the second photo next to the first. It was a screenshot from a local news broadcast. The same warehouse. Local residents protesting. You promised 2,000 jobs here, she said, her tone still flat. You made that promise in front of cameras. Musk finally looked at her. We had zoning delays. Utility grid adjustments. Leavitt met his eyes. The governor approved zoning 6 months ago. The utility board finalized grid specs in January. She leaned back slightly. Mr. Musk, this isn't about Mars. This is about Earth. Booker cleared his throat. Let's give Mr. Musk a moment to respond. Musk sat forward. We're in the business of the future. Some projections fall short, but the vision remains intact. Leavitt tilted her head. At $12 billion a shortfall this large isn't a projection error. It's a planning failure. Her voice was quiet, deliberate. Taxpayer money is not venture capital. Booker nodded slowly. Let's break for 5 minutes. As everyone shuffled slightly in their chairs, Karoline Leavitt closed her folder. She didn't look smug, just focused. Elon Musk tapped his pen once on the desk. His assistant whispered something, and the live feed cut to commercial. Outside, the protesters were louder now. Inside, silence had more weight than sound. The hearing resumed 5 minutes later, but the air hadn't cleared. If anything, it was denser. As aides repositioned files and photographers adjusted their lenses, the sense that something had shifted became unavoidable. Karoline Leavitt didn't need a mic check. Her folder was already open. Senator Booker looked at her, gave a nod. You may continue, Representative Leavitt. She stood. Thank you, Senator. Then, without raising her voice or changing expression, she flipped to a new page and tapped the built-in screen on the witness display console. A digital image loaded onto the large monitor behind Musk. It was a rendering, a project blueprint, stamped with the words, Ghost Jobs Fund, Initiative Forecast 2023. This, Leavitt said, was part of your 2023 innovation package, submitted to the Joint Tech Committee, and approved for $540 million in special-purpose federal credit. Musk glanced at the screen and then at Kai. His assistant's jaw tightened. Leavitt continued. This plan projected 6,000 new jobs, robotics, warehousing, clean assembly. The only problem, she paused, it never existed. Gasps were quiet but audible. The site listed Nashua County, New Hampshire was never zoned, never built, never inspected. There's no construction, no permits, no local contracts. Senator Booker adjusted his glasses. Ms. Leavitt, are you saying the project was fabricated? No, Senator. I'm saying it was funded, tracked, and celebrated, but it was vapor. A digital mock-up. Musk shifted. We anticipated land clearance issues. The site was reconsidered for a secondary location. Leavitt didn't let the spin settle. That new location in Arizona is owned by a private holding entity, DLX Holdings, that lists you, Mr. Musk, as executive trustee. More murmurs, this time louder. That entity then subcontracted a consulting firm, Aurora Kinetics LLC, which received $118 million for operational mobilization. They filed 0 payrolls with the IRS for that quarter. Musk opened his mouth, closed it again. Kai whispered something, but Leavitt didn't pause. Federal records show the Aurora funds passed through 3 shell accounts and disappeared into expense reports under developmental delay mitigation. What does that mean, Mr. Musk? His hands folded, unfurled. It means delays happen. Bureaucracy is imperfect. She stepped slightly closer, her voice steady. $118 million vanished behind 3 terms. No workers, no site, no jobs. She tapped again. A second image loaded a digital dashboard with glowing red text. DLX Holdings declared project initiation complete in Q4 of last year, and yet not one hiring record exists. Booker leaned forward now. Do you have proof that these entities are fraudulent? Leavitt turned the page again. I have audit logs. I have emails from contractors who were promised work. I have bank routing inconsistencies flagged by the GAO. And she pulled a printed page from the folder and held it up. I have this. It was a screenshot of a text message from Elon Musk's assistant dated 7 months prior. Get that DLX paperwork filed or the feds are going to crawl up our launch site. No more excuses. Just make it real. The room stilled again. Musk broke the silence. That message is out of context. Leavitt held it steady. Is it fake? He didn't answer. Senator Booker interjected. Mr. Musk, would you like to request a recess to consult legal counsel? Musk's jaw set. No, let's continue. The lights in the room seemed colder now, more clinical. Leavitt placed the page down beside the monitor and sat again. Booker turned slightly toward her. Anything further, Representative? She nodded. Yes, one more thing. She reached into her folder and pulled out a second document, an internal memo from the Department of Energy. According to this, she said DLX Holdings applied for a second round of credits totaling $750 million. The application is pending. I recommend we freeze it until this committee completes its audit. Booker scanned the paper, then turned to the clerk. Enter that request into the session record. Cameras flashed, not a sound from the press gallery. But Leavitt wasn't done. She leaned forward again, flipping to the final page of her folder. This document, she said, was filed as part of your shareholder transparency requirement with the SEC. It lists DLX Holdings as having a 22% equity partner, Vision Sync Capital. She tapped the screen once more. The new slide displayed a chart of Vision Sync's financial movements. Vision Sync, she said, is co-managed by two firms, one registered in the Cayman Islands, the other in Singapore, neither of which disclosed ownership transparency. Musk visibly exhaled. The federal subsidy program forbids funds from flowing into undisclosed offshore financial vehicles without prior oversight. And yet here, she pointed to a red flag icon. On the screen we see transfers made from DLX to Vision Sync, totaling $34.6 million within 3 months of the first funding round. Booker sat back. Representative Leavitt, I will direct committee staff to begin a separate inquiry into these financial disclosures immediately. Leavitt nodded. That would be appropriate. She paused, then added with careful articulation, we are not in the business of investing in obscurity. We are in the business of serving the public. Reporters typed furiously. Phones vibrated across the press row. One aide from the Department of Energy leaned to whisper something to another. Musk caught it. For the first time, his posture slouched slightly, and still Karoline Leavitt sat upright, calm, poised, prepared. Outside, the chants were changing. Where's the money? Inside, no one needed to ask. Senator Booker tapped the wooden gavel lightly, not to command silence, but to acknowledge it. The room had entered a different state, quiet, charged, deliberate. The kind of silence that had weight, that held breath and rearranged perception. Let's resume, he said, voice low. We'll open the next round of questions. Representative Leavitt, your time remains. Karoline nodded. She didn't shuffle papers or sip water. She didn't need to. The room was already listening. Mr. Musk, she began again, you spoke earlier about vision, about the nature of building the future. I want to explore that further. She tapped her screen. A bar graph appeared on the monitor. This chart shows employment growth projections versus actualized data from your federally supported operations between Q3 2022 and Q1 2025. The blue is projected, the red is real. The screen was mostly red, flat, unmoving. Your team presented this to federal stakeholders, promising exponential return, particularly in states affected by industrial decline. Would you agree that those expectations were not met? Musk nodded slowly. We've encountered setbacks, but every innovation curve has valleys. Leavitt raised an eyebrow. Do valleys usually consume $12 billion in federal support? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, we're creating foundations. It's long-term architecture. She leaned forward slightly. Mr. Musk, these foundations include schools that were never open labs, that were never staffed training centers, that only existed on brochures. In Massachusetts, you held a ribbon cutting for a facility that has yet to produce a single unit. The ribbon was real, the jobs were not. There were murmurs again. Even some of the committee staff exchanged looks. Booker said nothing. Neither did Musk. Leavitt continued, I want to read something from your 2023 keynote at the Pacific Tech Forum. She unfolded a printed transcript. We no longer ask for permission, we ask for acceleration. She let the words hang. That mindset might be commendable in a startup, but it becomes dangerous in public infrastructure. The American taxpayer is not your beta tester. Musk sat back. Then Leavitt added, let's also talk about another word you've used, disruption. She tapped again. A new slide filled the screen headlines from regional newspapers. All different states. All with similar wording. Space initiative delayed contractors unpaid. Retraining program closed after 6 weeks. Tech jobs promised but none arrived. These communities were disrupted all right, Leavitt said. But not by innovation, by abandonment. Kai shifted uncomfortably. Musk adjusted his collar. The federal government trusted your roadmap, she said. But what we got was a trail of ghost sites, glossy PR, and financial ambiguity. Booker broke the silence. Representative Leavitt, you have 2 minutes remaining. She nodded. I'd like to direct attention to a secondary document. One that didn't come from a federal archive. She tapped again. This time the screen displayed a map, highlighted zones across 7 states. Each pin represented a location where promised jobs were never delivered. Each zone contained data, funding amount, projected hires, current output. The totals at the bottom: projected jobs 31, 245 verified jobs created, 6803 active after 12 months, 3729. She let the numbers speak. Then this map was compiled using reports from local watchdogs, former employees, whistleblowers, not federal agencies, not your team, the people on the ground, the people you forgot. A hush followed. Even the press, so quick to type and tweet, waited. Musk finally said, the truth is, we are in a race. Against China, against complacency, against collapse. And sometimes in that race you trip. Leavitt stood calm. We didn't elect you to race, Mr. Musk. We elected you to be accountable. She paused, not for drama, but for weight. The people who pay for rockets never ride them. They ride buses. They work double shifts. They raise families and believe in public trust. That's who this hearing is for. She looked around the room, direct, unmoving. Then she continued. The counties that received the highest promise in your rollout harden. Stanislaus, Alamance, Pulaski have the lowest delivery rate on jobs. And yet your quarterly shareholder memos use these counties to demonstrate progress. On what basis? Musk did not respond. She pressed again, tapping her folder. In Pulaski County, your press office claimed 400 training enrollments. I spoke with the superintendent. The facility never opened. The building is still a plywood skeleton. Someone in the room exhaled sharply. Last year, she went on, you posted a video on your personal platform thanking every worker who believes in the future. You forgot to thank the ones waiting for a job that never came. The committee clerk looked down, typing. Aide chatter had halted. Leavitt's voice lowered slightly but carried farther. I'm not here to criminalize ambition. I'm here to protect public investment. And when ambition takes without returning, that's not disruption. That's extraction. She paused, eyes narrowing. We call it fraud when it's done quietly. We call it vision when it's done loudly. But the result is the same broken trust. Her words echoed, not metaphorically, literally. The microphones caught every syllable. Senator Booker finally leaned forward again, face unreadable. Your time has concluded, Representative. Thank you. Leavitt nodded once, closed her folder, and sat. The silence that followed wasn't political. It was personal. Every person in that room, regardless of alignment, was reckoning with a line that had just been drawn. The tension didn't fade with the break. It fermented. Even during the 10-minute recess, no one moved far. Reporters milled near the doors. Aide whispers took on a sharper pitch. Cameras kept rolling, collecting B-roll like oxygen. When the committee reconvened, Senator Booker scanned the semicircle. His voice carried a soft command. Let's return to order. Karoline Leavitt, poised once again, opened her folder, not with urgency but with the confidence of a prepared mind. She held up a small object between her fingers, a red USB drive. The room tilted forward. This, she said, was not obtained from a public source. It was not handed to me by a whistleblower through the press. It was mailed, anonymously, postmarked from Brownsville, Texas. Musk's gaze locked on the flash drive. Leavitt continued. The contents of this device were reviewed by committee tech staff. What it holds is a packet of internal communications between DLX Holdings Aurora Kinetics and a private Slack channel labeled Launchpad. Kai whispered urgently into Musk's ear. Musk didn't blink. Leavitt inserted the USB into the console. The monitor blinked, then filled with a text overlay. Guys, we need to backdate the metrics. Push fake output to the test sheets. Doesn't matter if the units don't work, just need the slides. There was an audible stir. Leavitt scrolled. More lines appeared. No one checks procurement versus deliverables. Just make sure the visuals look strong. If we pull this off, next round's locked. Greenlit before the audits even begin. She looked around. These are not isolated messages. This is systemic manipulation and internal strategy to mislead oversight bodies, using falsified productivity reports. Musk remained silent. Kai, pale now, tapped on his tablet feverishly. Leavitt tapped again. A PDF loaded. It was a slide deck. Here is the deck, she said, that was presented to Department of Energy officials last October. Pitched as proof of progress. She zoomed in. These graphs were manufactured. The chat logs show when each one was created and who input the data. None of the output shown here was ever verified. And yet it earned DLX Holdings a funding greenlight worth $275 million. Senator Booker's face was unreadable. Ms. Leavitt, has this been reviewed by an independent forensics team? It's currently under evaluation by the Congressional Office of Digital Integrity. But the metadata confirms the file origins. The timestamps line up with internal logins. Musk finally spoke. This evidence is unvetted. It's selectively presented. Leavitt met his eyes. So are your funding applications. There was no rebuttal, just breath. Booker sat straighter. The committee will formally request full access to all communications referenced, and will suspend any pending payments tied to these metrics. He turned to Musk. You'll receive a legal notice by end of day. Musk didn't flinch, but Kai slumped slightly. Leavitt closed her folder, then said one last thing. We're not in a courtroom, Mr. Musk, but you're under oath to the public. This flash drive didn't come from a hacker. It came from someone who believed in you and couldn't look away anymore. She paused, then added, and they didn't send it because they hated your ambition. They sent it because they believed it could have meant something, until it didn't. Booker nodded once, then looked around the room. This committee will enter the documents into the public record. Further proceedings will be scheduled as necessary. A new voice spoke, Representative Salazar from Florida. Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to suggest that this device be duplicated and secured by 2 separate cybersecurity teams immediately. Request granted, Booker replied. Clerk logged the motion. In the back of the room, a Department of Energy observer picked up their phone. Not to tweet, to call, a direct line. Outside, journalists huddled into tighter clusters. Camera crews zoomed in through the hearing windows. Someone updated the Chiron breaking whistleblower USB shifts Musk hearing, and still Karoline Leavitt remained seated. No drama, no self-congratulation, just stillness. As the red USB drive, now stored in a government-sealed envelope, was passed from clerk to bailiff, no one missed the metaphor. A device no bigger than a house key, holding the power to unlock a national reckoning. The room hadn't moved, but the balance had. After the flash drive's contents were sealed and the next agenda item formally postponed, the energy shifted again, less dramatic, more surgical. Now it was time to dig, to dissect, and to destroy any last scaffolding holding up the narrative Elon Musk had crafted. Senator Booker motioned to Representative Corin Marsh from Oregon. You're recognized for 5 minutes. Marsh was soft-spoken, older, and a career legislator. She didn't lead with fireworks. She led with precision. Mr. Musk, she began, you've mentioned the word vision 6 times today. I respect ambition. I do not respect obfuscation. Can you explain the procurement discrepancy from the CalScan logistics site? Musk blinked. I'm not familiar with that line item. Marsh turned to her aide, who handed her a thin binder. Then allow me to refresh your memory. On August 14, 2023, CalScan submitted an invoice for $1,900 units of scanning software, listed as proprietary tech under the Orion Series program. The software was never delivered. She flipped the page. In fact, the vendor listed Signum Systems is a dormant LLC. No employees, no license renewals. It's a ghost company. Musk leaned toward Kai, whispered something. Kai looked stricken. Marsh pressed. This invoice was paid using federal dollars. It was cleared through your CFO's office. It was marked as complete. A soft gasp came from the public seating. The buzz had returned. Musk finally said, we delegated oversight for certain micro-procurements. Mistakes happen. $14.2 million is not a mistake, Marsh shot back. It's a choice. It's a siphon. The word hung like fog. Next up was Representative Dale Kim, a technocrat with a background in auditing. He didn't speak at first. He clicked on a remote. The room darkened slightly as a digital projection filled the center screen, a wire diagram showing the flow of funds. This is the transaction flow for a single month. October 2023, Kim said. Red lines represent off-book transfers. Orange lines represent third-party intermediaries. The image looked like a web, a trap, and every line flowed toward a cluster of companies, each with overlapping boards, each with one name in common on the Oversight Committee Musk. There are 63 undocumented entries totaling $91.6 million. Not one job created, not one factory operating. Leavitt watched from her seat, eyes fixed. She didn't need to interrupt. The walls were speaking now. Kim continued, I'm not anti-technology, but when innovation becomes a shield for extraction, the state must act. More nods, more stilled faces. Representative Grace Mendez added her voice next. We've had leaders who moved us forward. And we've had leaders who just moved numbers around. Musk stared forward, still composed, but the gloss had dulled. Then came Representative Ajay Shah, new but sharp. He pulled up a spreadsheet on his tablet and read aloud. February 7th, 3.8 million marked for Solar Integration Test Module through an entity called Helix Nova. It shares a mailing address with your media team's PR office in Austin. What was being tested, Mr. Musk the Son? The room chuckled briefly. It was sharp, not playful. Shah didn't pause. We're not talking about clerical errors. We're looking at systemic detachment from reality and reporting. Then he tapped his mic. Let's be clear. This isn't about whether technology should be funded. This is about whether fraud should be. Senator Booker returned to the mic. Mr. Musk, do you have anything you wish to clarify before this committee proceeds with formal recommendation of a full audit and DOJ referral? Musk paused, his lips parted, but there was no answer. Silence now wasn't power, it was retreat. It started with a single camera flash, then another, and another. A staccato burst of shutters marked the moment not as spectacle, but as confirmation. The fall had happened. Now came the echo. Senator Booker leaned forward once more. This committee will now yield for closing statements. Representative Leavitt, you have the floor. Karoline stood. She didn't need her folder now. She had carried the truth for weeks. The facts were documented, the evidence logged. But now came the moment of intent, the part where meaning met memory. She stepped forward. We are a nation of promises, she began. Some made loud, others made in silence. The ones that matter most are made between the public and the powerful. She turned to Musk. You promised innovation. You delivered obfuscation. You promised jobs. You delivered forecasts. You promised transparency. You delivered theater. The room didn't move. I was raised to believe that when someone breaks trust, they answer for it. Not with branding, not with distraction, but with truth. Leavitt held up a single page, the original grant summary, that began the entire $12 billion trajectory. This document, she said, was meant to spark a new era. Instead, it became a cover page for something hollow. She paused. We don't fund ideas, we fund outcomes. We don't reward scale, we reward impact. And then the moment that would be clipped, shared, printed, debated. You'll have plenty of time to build Mars, Mr. Musk, because Earth won't miss you. There was no applause, That would come later outside online. In here it was reverence. Senator Booker tapped the gavel. This hearing is adjourned pending DOJ review and final subcommittee recommendations. Chairs scraped lightly as lawmakers stood. Reporters surged to the aisle. Staffers exchanged looks that meant careers had just changed. Musk remained in his seat. Kai reached for his shoulder. He didn't respond. The weight had landed. Leavitt walked out through the side entrance, no cameras allowed. Just an intern shadowing her steps, clutching the folder like it held a revolution. Outside, the crowd waited, not with signs this time, but with phones. They didn't chant, they listened. Karoline stepped to the microphone. "Thank you," she said. "Nothing else," and walked away. The next day, headlines ran the same phrase. "Earth won't miss you." But the footnotes told the real story. Fraud cases, open funding, frozen audits underway, credibility fractured. It was not a victory speech. It was an indictment. And it had echoed.